So, this is a proverb that that resonates with me. You might have seen it, and especially if you have any colleagues that come from Africa. If you want to go fast, you can go alone. If you want to go far, you need to go together. And I think this will be a theme I will continue to revisit throughout this evening's talk, wherever you are. So a little bit about ScholarX and who we are. So as Dr. M mentioned, we are a digital learning platform for shared education globally. We work with medical schools on 5 continents. And we impact over 150,000 learners through our 70 institutional and association partnerships throughout the year. We also supply a lot of the education that is in the first aid for the USMLE series that is published by our partner McGraw-Hill. And as you can see, books are still very popular. With students, using 90 million pages of estimated content per year. But what's really has been growing is digital learning, as you can very well suspect. 70 million digital learning activities on our platform each year and growing rapidly. And in terms of what we do, we started off initially in exam preparation, again, preparation for the United States medical licensing exam. So we have Q banks and we have performance analytics that will allow the schools, to interpret and evaluate the progress of their students who are using the question banks to prepare for exams like USMLE. And then about 5-6 years ago, we started developing instructional content curriculum that you can use to help teach in your medical school, particularly in the first 2 years, the preclinical instruction like pathology and microbiology and so forth, and that's what the majority of the medical schools use with us, and particularly during the pandemic. But then about a year or so ago, or 2 years ago, we gave all of our schools the ability to create their own learning content in our platform together with the existing content so that they can tailor it to their needs. And then finally, what we'll be talking more about today, which is the ability to share that, right? If you created something unique and valuable, why not share it? Why not, allow others to benefit from your work, other schools, other students, and ultimately their patients, right? And if we all did it, wouldn't that be a mutual good for all of us? And those will be some of the philosophical questions and some of the technical and logistic questions that I will pose and try to help answer and discuss with you. Oh, looks like somebody's in the waiting room. Oh, okay. All right. So again, why share, right? So, it turns out that, we've been taught to share at an early age. How many times have we told our children, share with your brother, share with your sister? And it also turns out that, people in the business world have made huge businesses out of this, right? Uber, you can share your car with others if you need to earn extra money. If you have a vacation home or another place or your own home, you can share, a room or even your whole house. Sorry. And so, so in the year 2022, if everybody's sharing all kinds of things, including things as big as a house, why haven't we figured out how to share curriculum at scale in a fair and equitable way, that supports the good learning for all? So that's exactly what we challenged the education community with when we published this invited commentary in the journal Academic Medicine several years ago. As you can see, it predates the pandemic even. My co-author is Charles Perber. He is the chair of my advisory board. He is the senior associate vice provost for health education at Stanford University. and a global leader in community health worker education, particularly in low resource regions like Africa and South Asia. And so we noted that education often occurs in silos, that there isn't enough collaboration among schools. And particularly with the COVID-19 pandemic, this is incredibly inefficient, given that we need to really come together as a global community to support each other through these difficult situations. So 6 years ago, we proposed the creation of what we called a global shared curricular ecosystem. So it's not a universal curriculum, but it is a sharing platform that's based on commonly accepted standards for core competencies, accreditation, like for example, from the WFME, and learning design. And we believe that such an ecosystem, if it were to exist, could dramatically democratize access to quality education, promote interprofessional and interprofessional education, address workforce shortages through targeted training interventions, and provide resilience to the global learning systems in time of pandemic, in time of war, all of which situations that we are enduring today. So, is shared education useful? Who might benefit? You can see that you might know, you certainly know what my thought is, but I'd love to hear from you. So I want you to take a minute and to type in any thoughts about, yes, is it useful, and who might benefit? You could please just put it in the chat. I know some of you might not be able, and if you want to unmute your microphone, that's fine. I don't know if participants are allowed to speak, but at a minimum, hopefully you can share some thoughts. I'll wait a minute and see if anything comes in on the chat. All right, and I apologize well in advance if I mispronounce names, but Dr. Farhad believes that it would be quite useful, and in particular, Dr. Farhad believes that its students would be the primary beneficiaries, but he thinks faculty may be well too, and we'll talk a little bit later about how that could be. Dr. Mona would also say it's beneficial. If it's context specific, that's a great point, and we'll talk about how that can be. Our moderators have also shared the same. Dr. Iqbal believes that this could be a win-win situations. And Dr. Mona again believes that students and staff will. So it feels like this is a win-win. So if it's such a win-win and this is the right thing to do, why aren't we doing it, or why aren't we doing more of it, right? So I think that's something that we'll want to keep in the back of our head as we go through progress further through the discussion. So thank you so much again for sharing your thoughts and comments. All right, so let's talk about some of the theoretical and practical frameworks and foundations for shared curriculum. Our work is built on the work of others, and so and if you think about it, they are sharing their ideas with us, and then we build on their ideas. Let's see, Dr. Halajina, comments that the world has become a small village with people moving around. So yes, sharing and collaboration, certainly apply and is relevant. So a couple of concepts to keep in mind. One is duplication, or the need. How much duplication do we need? 3,000. The WFME World Medical Directory recognizes over 3,000 medical schools. We teach a lot of the same thing. The anatomy of the heart is the anatomy of the heart. Last I checked, whether you are in London, where Dr. Shabi is, or I in Kentucky in the United States. So why do we need 3,000 different lectures or 3,000 different units on heart anatomy, right? At those 3,000 medical schools. We think about the reusability very hard. And so in education technology, there is a concept called reusable learning objects. Again, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to read through it, but you can understand that, it is about designing the education so it's modular, reusable. So that's why we call them objects, because then you can reconnect it and it's self-contained. But the key thing about the reusability is that, you know, you can see it allows you to unlock 4 additional R's, which is revisability, remixability, redistributability, retainability. One of our colleagues mentioned that, you know, shared education is useful if we can make it specific for those who need it in that specific location where it is, whether it's yes, it's Dr. Mona, whether it's you know, in Asia or Africa or in Egypt or you know, or elsewhere. Oops, sorry. I'm going to skip this, but you know, but broadly, you might have heard some of related contexts like OER, open education, and free open access. But you know, the work that we do is consistent with UNESCO, the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Culture Organization, which strongly supports OER, open education resources, and you know, and there are certain recommendations that we follow as well too. That was developed at the Ljubljana Second World OER Congress back in 2017. The other thing that we think about are the technical standards. So now, as educators, we are not normally technologists, but you need good technology to make good sharing happen, right? And so there needs to be the right technical standards for scalability, interoperability, and accessibility. These are more technical standard terms, but in our world, it makes sharing more efficient, better sharing, and better able discovery. So Dr. Mona created a wonderful brick on interprofessional education. It would be easier for me to find it from Kentucky, even though I do not personally know Dr. Mona. All right, so let's talk about, and then Medbiquitous, by the way, is an organization within the AAMC that actually sets the North American standards, data standards for sharing collaboration education data. And we have, and I sit on their steering committee, which is part of the leadership. And we developed a white paper for where we think education can be. And it includes learning records, includes curriculum exchange, and includes sharing and collaboration on credentialing. And we'll talk a little bit more about the curriculum exchange a little bit later. And then lastly, communities of practice. And here it's really thinking about us, right? Connectedness and belonging. How can we find connection and belonging amongst us as community members, active and meaningful roles and empowerment? So if you think about it, all of us here today, the ones that come regular to these conferences, we represent a community of practice. We have shared interests. We practice in the domain of education. We're thinking about sharing collaboration. We get together digitally. And so we develop these relationships, and we develop ways of how we relate to each other. So Dr. Iqbal may work with Dr. Fahad on something, and they find gratifying ways of contributing to the community, and the community together can create more and do more than just the sum of the individual members in that community. And so for us, we developed and designed the platform RxBricks as our expression of a global shared curricular ecosystem. So how did we design ours? Well, the first thing we thought about was how we define the reusable learning object. And in our system, the reusable learning object is the humble brick. And we call it a brick because it's designed to be like a Lego brick, like the toy we all grew up with. Here's a bunch of Lego bricks. You can see that I can take the Lego bricks apart and snap it back together and to create something different. I don't know what this is, but you can see you can change the shape, right? Just by moving some bricks around, right? And these bricks are self-contained learning units that are about 10 to 20 minutes long. They can incorporate text, they can import images, video, multimedia if you want. And we already built a whole library of bricks that cover all of pre-clerkship education, all pre-clinical education. Like I said, we're already working with dozens of schools on 5 continents that are actively using our bricks, to teach, to teach and train medical students, physician assistant students, podiatry students, and even now, even a little bit of nursing. And like Lego bricks, they're, again, like I said, they're easily connectable, right? And so you can easily see how powerful that is, where you can create any education experience you want with, just the right bricks. But unlike Legos, we go beyond that and allow each brick to be fully customizable with an integrated open access authoring platform called Arcs Bricks Create. We'll talk about that later. But the idea is that if this brick needs to be green, you can change that. If you need to remove a couple of these studs, you can, or if you need to add some different ones, you can. That's the whole purpose of making it specific to your context, as I think Dr. Mona earlier suggested, to make shared education truly useful on a global scale. Okay, and so I'm going to spend just a few minutes just showing the platform. But at the end of the day, the theme is we as educators already have more than enough work, to train the next generation of physicians, that are going to care for us, care for our loved ones, and so forth. We want to empower them. We want to super empower them to be learning architects, learning experience architects, and not just the brick maker, right? Just creating the content. They should be able to reuse, our bricks, their bricks, other people's bricks, and then modify the bricks as necessary to address the specific needs of their local situation. But then create bricks if there's a gap, like something that's rapidly new, like the latest, variant of COVID-19 Omicron, for example. So let me go ahead and provide a brief demonstration. I'm going to now switch to a web browser. Now I'm going to ask my moderators again to just confirm that they can see it, so we're all on the same page. Dr. M, Dr. Shabi, can you see this?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So this is the web browser. It's also available on mobile apps. Obviously, since students learn on the go. But here what's happening is students can see that the bricks that they are learning, where they left off. It tracks their last area that they're focusing on, and provides them with suggestions of what they last reviewed and where they can go next. If you're an osteoarthritis, you might want to do other connective tissue bricks, anatomy bricks, joint bricks, and so forth. And you can see that the platform offers bricks that medical schools can use right away, right off the shelf, with no modification if at all desired. And it covers the major discipline and organ system areas like pathology and microbiology, immunology. Some of these bricks are open access for you to use at no cost, and also there are bricks that are developed by our student education partners. And I think somebody mentioned here, there was a comment from somebody here. Dr. Razieh said it must be adapted for students in all worlds. So in this particular case, it's actually the students that are involved in actually helping develop the bricks, certain bricks. And so you can see they're targeting certain areas that, that sometimes are not well covered in conventional medical curriculum, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, digital health, sexual new education, women's health, and so forth. So these are things that these are obviously optional. You pick what you want, but this is a library that can serve many needs. And if you go into a brick or collection of bricks, you can see that we can track whether you completed bricks. I finished this brick. You can see I've not completed this coronary vascular anatomy brick. Let's go in, and you can see that when you go in, you can see that these bricks are well designed from an instructional design standpoint. They have clear learning objectives using Bloom's taxonomy. So these are, and these can be mapped in your learning system, to your course objectives. Each of the bricks, has what we call a case connection. It's really a thought case. It's a case that is realistic. It's what students can expect to see when they enter clinical practice. And it has a thought process question, an open-ended question, like two patients come in with myocardial infarction in the same vascular distribution, but one patient has a better outcome than the other. Why is that? And so it obviously has something to do with coronary vascular anatomy. That will be the puzzle that they will struggle with, during this brick, and then we will revisit it, at the end. As you can see, as they go through it, they engage in friendly narrative education, rich images that are interactive. Some of the images offer, formative assessment opportunities with, label discovery exercises, for, structure identification or algorithm or flowchart identification. A lot of the key terms are defined. So left coronary. So, and then with recommendations to additional bricks, right? And then there are embedded, interactive exercises like flashcards, right? And so this is truly engaged learning, right? And many of you who read the learning science literature is that you do not want your students to passively read. Highlighting is not active engagement, right? They actually have to self-test and so forth. And so this is a form of active learning within, the ecosystem, and not passively reading or passively watching videos, right? And right now you're a little passive, right? Because I'm not asking you to think through or think about it. I did a little earlier, but in this situation, the bricks forces you to actively engage every few minutes. And that's really important given how short the attention span of students are these days. You can also see that you as an educator can directly embed your own text, hyperlinks. If you want to link to something that you found, an article from a journal, the Lancet or whatever, or you can also embed your own videos, right? You can see I found a video here that, about coronary anatomy, and you can see that your colleagues, now this is if you're working with us, we can make sure that your colleagues can work with you on the brick, and that's only for your students at your institution, so that, multiple educators can annotate the same brick, and again, customize that experience for their students at their particular university. So very customizable from that perspective. And then I'm going to go on, but you can see that this continues to spiral with additional learning objectives that build on each other, with additional form of assessment activities for students, and different additional flashcards that ask not only just what, but also how and why questions, that forces the students to critically think and improve their clinical thinking and clinical reasoning processes. And then at the end, we come back to that question about why one patient did better, and that's because one patient had better developed collateral blood flow through vascular anastomosis, which was one of the learning objectives. And so then it is summarized. Students have additional opportunities for self-assessment with these learning review questions at the very end, and that data is available to the educator. And then the students can also self-assess whether they feel like they've mastered that. And again, you can get a percentage report on that, and then that will guide you with, where to go next in your curriculum. And the most popular way these bricks are used is as flipped classroom, so it's assigned ahead of time, and then they gather together to do small group learning, like case-based learning, problem-based learning, team-based learning, which is large group, or interactive didactics. So you're applying what you've learned here into, in-person context. And so this is how we can, supercharge a faculty's efforts without and actually help them save time, when building these learning experiences. So that's the basic brick. next thing I want to show is the ability to modify the bricks. And if there's any questions, feel free to drop them in, and I will certainly get back to it in the open discussion. And thank you so much, Dr. Nancy, for the comment about the coronary anatomy there. So you saw what that we can annotate a brick. You can see that as an educator, you can come in and decide if there are, what bricks you need to you can deploy. So let's go back, or let's find something else. Let's do a brick on staphylococci, right? It's obviously the basis, unfortunately, for a lot of infectious disease. And I'm going to zoom in so people can see. But you can see that you can mouse over and see if these are the right learning objectives for your course. And then you can see that if you click on the 3 dots, you can copy this brick and embed this into your learning management system. You can annotate the brick as I showed earlier, or you can do something, I think, transformationally different. I think this is where it gets to, hey, how do we scale sharing on a global basis to make it useful and fair? You can clone the brick. So you can clone a version just for your school, whether you are in, again, Egypt or Rwanda or Vietnam or Malaysia or Iraq or anywhere else. So you can see here, you've got the learning objectives. You can see that I have been put in charge as being the adapter of this, and you can see that it looks like a brick like everything else. You see the case, you see the images, you see the flashcards, you see, there's an H&E slide, there's diagrams and so forth. And it looks just like the same brick, but you can see that I can now, modify this staphylococci, in the USA, right? So let's be more specific. And maybe, because I'm in Louisville, I might have to change this and say, I think this is the wrong learning objective for my students. It needs to be about, explain, staph, infection in Louisville, where I live, because I teach my students Louisville, Kentucky, in the United States, right? And this patient may be, from Ohio, which is the state right next to me. So I can make this as specific as I want. And this is just for my students, at my institution. I can also add text anywhere. All I need to do is just click in, and then you can see I can, when I can add text here, or I can add anything that you saw. I can add a flashcard. I can add multiple choice questions in the middle of a brick. I can add tables, equations, images and videos. And the videos, you can either copy paste the video, or you can drag and drop. So for example, I know this is not the right video, but here's a video about COVID. I can copy that video, and then I can just go back. Sorry, let me pause that. And I can just put that video right there. And then you can see that the video is easily embedded, right into the brick. This could be my video, or this could be a video of one of my colleagues, and you can see that it works right away, right? It's playing directly, in the brick, right? So I can assign people a video to watch from YouTube or Vimeo. Thank you, Dr. Nassef. Welcome, Dr. Nassef. And when I'm done, I can have my curriculum committee review it, and when they approve it, I can publish it. And then when it's published, then I can copy that link. Nobody's seen it, so it's private, and then I can implement it in my learning management system. If it's an open access brick, then you can share it with other folks. And when you embed it and then your students see it, this is what they see. They will literally see the changes that I just made just 2 minutes ago. You can see that this is instantaneous. There is no waiting time. Staphylococci in the USA. Here's my learning objective about Louisville. Here's my content. You can see that the video I put in here is right there. So this is an instant publishing system for your curriculum. But but you say, well, how do I know, if this is getting? Well, you can see where it came from. You can see that, there's direct attribution to the original brick. So it maintains kind of like a blockchain ledger of all the versions that came before it. In the future, we will map out a family tree. And so other people modify this brick, and depending on the permissions and if it's open access, you'll be able to see their variations as well too, and say, oh, well, this is how Dr. Nazef did it in Libya. I think that's where Dr. Nazef is. And I can see how she thinks about staphylococci in Libya. And if there's something useful and it's open access, I can bring it back into my brick, right? And so that's where you start to see, a collaboration. And as Dr. Farhad mentioned, he's absolutely right. We want to keep the students in the zone. We want to keep them challenged and flipping around. So, that's why this tool is designed to handle all types of media, including podcasts and anything, because you can link it all into this video, this platform. So that's a basic overview, of the platform, what you can do at your own school. And then finally, let's say we are all educators, we are all creators, and that means that there will be things that we see as a need out there that hasn't been addressed. Let's say Dr. Nazef needs to write about the latest needs to write about the latest Omicron variant in Libya, and there's no such thing exists. So she can go in and can create a brick. And by the way, this is open access, no charge if you're sharing this with others. So she can talk about, Omicron, BA, I know BA6 doesn't technically exist, but let's pretend there was a BA6 in Libya. And so she can say, explain this, do that. She can add her own learning objectives. You can see everything is templated. All she needs to do is fill in the blank. So you don't even need your own instructional designer. So you can add your content, you can add your videos, you can drag and drop videos. You can add summary points, questions, and all that, and then you publish it, and then your colleagues, if as an open access education resource in OER, your colleagues can clone it and use it, and modify it. And what happens is that when they clone it, there's automatic direct attribution back to your brick, so you automatically get credit. So you benefit by getting credit. They benefit by not having to reinvent the wheel, and all the students benefit because they benefit from your shared expertise, your shared genius, your shared creativity, and ultimately our patients benefit, right? So that's how we see this value chain working. So with that, I do want to make sure we have an opportunity to share our thoughts and ideas. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what other people are doing. You can see here we do actually have collaborators in Rwanda, and when they create their bricks later on, their colleagues in Tanzania, which is a country just to the east, can then clone and reuse it and then attribute it back to the original educator in Rwanda. So we are already doing collaboration work with student organizations. As you know, students are incredibly intelligent, they're incredibly motivated, and if you think about it, they are the largest group of content creators, right? Think about all the notes they create, all the PowerPoints presentations that they do, all the flashcards they create, right? Most of that just goes away. But what if we train them to also create good curriculum with faculty guidance? And that's what we did with this Medical Student Alliance for Global Education. It comprises of all of the world's largest medical student organization, including IFMSA, the International Federation of Medical Student Association, which has standing and is formally recognized by the United Nations and the World Health Assembly. They came together to create open access curriculum, in a number of different areas like new educator, diversity, equity, inclusion, digital health, social accountability is coming up soon. And also we are starting to work with other global education organizations like the Association of Medical Education in Europe. Sorry, there's a little bit of noise.
Hello.
You can mute yourself. That would be great.
Anji.
Yes, Dr. Asia, if you can mute yourself, that would be great. Thank you. We'll open up the line for speaking soon. IMZ, which is in the second largest medical education organization in the United States. PAFAMS, which represent all of Latin America, you know, and so forth. And then we're also developing regional consortia. So there's one in Africa with the University of Global Health Equity. We're working with Harvard and the Health Advancement in Vietnam. Harvard Medical. This is out of Harvard Medical School, and we are working with Vietnam and the Vietnamese government to capacity to allow the Vietnamese medical schools to create their own Vietnamese first Vietnamese language BRIC curriculum and then share with each other. In fact, I will be flying to Hanoi in 2 weeks to present the data from the first several schools that have already started to develop curriculum, you know, on our platform for sharing and collaboration with other Vietnamese medical schools in the region. And we see in the future that you know, this sharing will be something that can be open and public. We see a platform that, you know, can behave and look like YouTube or Spotify, where the, you know, creators from medical schools across the world come together to share, you know, bricks and expertise in their area of passion and teaching, you know, on the world stage, in a safe, supportive environment, and that schools can have their own portals and pages where they can share their expertise, and where individual educators that are with these schools can also share their education with others. So, you know, we believe that there's an exciting journey ahead. You know, while the pandemic has obviously been horrible, it has opened up an opportunity for us to come together to really transform education through us as a global community, you know, where we are the solution that we are seeking. It's just that we needed the tools to come together as a global community to do this. And now we believe we do. So thank you very much. I very much appreciate your attention and your questions and your dialogue. I'm sorry to be behind on some of the questions, but we do have 15 minutes left. And at this point, I am going to ask Dr. M and Dr. Shabi to help with the moderation. I would love to hear more from you about, you know, is this useful? How can this be used? How can we work together? How can we take this to the next level? And how can we make, you know, great quality education accessible to all, regardless of financial situation, regardless of resources? So with that, thank you.
So this is Shabi Zaidi. It was excellent talk. This is exactly what we need in the modern age when we have digitalization and space technology. I'm very impressed with this work that you've done or you're doing. What I need to do is that I have to invite a couple of people, very seasoned speakers, or rather not speakers, but scholars in this attendance. So may I ask Dr. Saeed Abdul Zahra? He's the former dean of Kufa University, a very old university in Iraq, and now the head of medical education. What does he think about this platform? Saeed Abdul Zahra, are you there?
Thank you very much, Professor Shabi Zaidi, and thank very much for Dr. Lee for this nice presentations. Nowadays, we return back to the school, back to the hospitals. But I think sharing experience is very, very useful if we have an access to what they did in their schools. I think they're very useful. My questions to our colleague or our lecturer about hybrid. What do you think? Because we are now back to the school, students are attending, and So what about how assessment, and what about the clinical environment, clinical teaching? My questions for you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that is a wonderful question, and actually, it's our global community of collaborators that are answering that question. First of all, we want to be clear that we cannot, and we will not create the bricks for the entire world. It's impossible, right? No matter how big you are, every school, every country has their own individual needs. So, for example, Dr. El Nazar, with regards to clinical education, the University of Del Norte in Colombia in South America, their situation is that English language textbooks are too expensive. They are not consistent with Colombian healthcare guidelines. And so in fact, what happened was the medical students can't get into all the clinics because there's more students than there is clinical preceptor spots. So what happened is the students got together with the faculty in the internal medicine clerkship, and they developed a program where the students designed bricks under the guidance of the clerkship director that addressed primary care issues in Colombia, like thyroid disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, but tied to Colombian guidelines with clinical cases embedded, throughout the brick. They have already built 18 of their own in just a couple of months. It has become very popular. Now they're going to expand it to emergency medicine. I think they want to do OBGYN, and actually now it's going to be the president of PAFAMS. That's the organization that represents all of the Americas. Actually, that includes North America, South America. They are now setting up multiple country level pilots in Mexico and South America, and excuse me, in the Caribbean, where they're expanding that idea, and then are working in teams of students and faculty to develop, again, shared bricks. Now it's going to be local, but then over time these bricks will connect. So again, the bricks can absolutely be used for clinical education. Obviously, it doesn't replace traditional clinical education, but it's an adjunct. It can be used for flipped classroom. It could be used for case-based education. If a student has to do a case presentation, instead of doing it as standard PowerPoint, which will disappear, why not do it as an interactive brick? Then can be eventually submitted to the global community in a peer review process to be published later on. So that's where we see the platform going with in regards to supporting clinical education. And again, this is being driven by the community, not by us. The community is actually helping set the rules and decide where to go next. Other questions?
And there's another question from dental faculty. A very seasoned dental surgeon professor has asked, can it be used in dental faculty? Can you develop your bricks? Can they develop the bricks themselves, or can you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we would be delighted to work with dental colleagues. We were already starting to work with nursing colleagues, veterinary colleagues, because at the end of the day, dental colleagues, the head and neck anatomy is the same as the head and neck anatomy in medical education. Immunology is the same. A lot of the pathology, inflammation is the same. So, excuse me, there's a lot that can be shared and modified just for the dental field. So we would be happy to collaborate. And again, the platform is open access to create your own dental education for open access sharing or OER sharing with all your dental colleagues. And we would all be happy to help train you or provide faculty development resources that will capacitate your educators, to empower them to create their own dental education.
So there is a question from Muna. How much does it cost to use Scholar RX?
Yeah, so there are two ways to approach that. So today, anybody can go to our platform, and use the open access part of the platform. I'll show you let me show that to you. Actually, it's quite easy. But I apologize, I have a bit of a cold here. But to get a free account and to get access to the open access bricks, and also to get access to the open access platform, you just need to go to ScholarX. And I don't know, for as long as you there, if you just drop the link into the chat, that would be helpful. Just go to ScholarX. You can obviously learn more about it, but wherever you are, wherever you are, sorry, we got lots of pop-ups. Bricks Create is the platform where this is about open access curriculum sharing, but all you need to do is start a free account and then just say, I'm an educator. So click on I am a faculty, and that's it. We just need your email password. And then within 20 seconds, you can be in the system creating open access education. And you can do that free forever. There is a cost for the bricks, and it depends on what country you're in. So it could be less than $100, it could be more than $100. Depending on whether you need whether you need our question banks, you need and whether you're and based on the economic status of the country, we do adjust the cost by GDP, or by how the World Bank classifies the level of economic development in countries. But there are over 800 bricks, literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of assignable education that can be that a school can partners to subscribe to and then provide to their students. But that's a separate question, and that's a separate. If you want more information, please email me directly, and we can look at your specific situation. But again, our promise is that we will not turn away any school because of because of their financial situation. We will work with any school regardless. So we'll find a way to work together. Hope that helps.
Right. Now, Sadiq International Virtual University has created a niche for itself in the field of medical education, teachers training program, faculty enhancement program, which doesn't exist anywhere in the medical schools. They have the departments, but we have a global faculty of scholars who teach other scholars, other teachers how to teach. Teachers training program is a very special thing. That's a niche market. I'm just wondering, how can SIVU collaborate with you in developing this and expanding it further?
Yeah, sure. So teaching. So you've heard the story. You've heard the story about people, giving fish, right? Or to
how to catch a fish.
Yeah, but we're all about giving you the fishing poles, yeah. and the nets and so forth. And so we would be delighted to work with SIVU, and one of the resources that we already have available that is open access is a collection of bricks about the new educator. Now, this was designed specifically. Initially, the initial focus was for medical students who want to become educators, but we realized that these resources were applicable to any professor who's a new educator, in the classroom, in the clinical environment, and so forth. And so, so if you wanted to learn about, best practices in the classroom, you can. So this is all open access. You can use this right now today. Just get a free account, and you can see that we talk about active versus passive learning. We talk about why lecturing is passive and how can you embed active learning, and how and the learning theory behind that with images. And you can see that there is active learning. As you can see, we practice what we preach. You are not active passively just reading this. What to do in small groups, large groups, what are the aids and so forth. And then again, if you have a free account, you can then easily go in and clone a brick, for your own institution. So this could be in SIVU, so this could be completely modified. So the answer is yes. These 12 bricks are just the starting point. We think there are many, many areas where we can go further with international experts like SIVU to develop even more useful, extensible faculty development resources using bricks.
Anybody from the audience, Mubashir, can you kindly unmute if somebody wants to raise a hand, ask a question directly? It's a very, very invaluable tool of learning. I think it's a fantastic thing. Glad that you came over. I'm grateful to Farzan to introduce you to us. Anybody else from the audience? There are some chats here. Maybe you can read them through if you like. Or
Professor Shabih.
Yeah, go ahead.
My questions to our professors about student tracking, how we can track student progress and learning formatively in this.
Are you talking about assessment?
I don't mean assessment, student, because how we know that student is going to read the subjects, go to do the assessment, the formative assessment, to answer the questions. How we can be sure that the student is progressing, as he's doing his job. How we can know? How we can know? What is the science?
Monitoring the activity of a student.
Yes, student tracking.
Over to you, Dr. Tali. Yes, absolutely. There is a concept. Thank you for that question. There is a concept called precision education, which is heavy data driven. So we've all heard the term big data, right? But big data is useless if it's not precise and targeted the right way. So when the students come and use the bricks, they generate an enormous amount of data, because we track all the flashcards, we track all the formative assessments, we can track what bricks and where they go and so forth. Unlike a video, like if you watch a video, you don't know what the student is doing in the video and where they're having problems or not. But here there are multiple assessments all the way through, formative, low stakes, mid stakes, that can help and target where the student may be progressing, where not. That data can be exported. We do have a dashboard. I will say it's very high level. It's good for tracking engagement and getting a general sense of how they're doing. But for more precise, we can export the data, into your LMS. We can integrate. Somebody asked earlier, can we integrate with Moodle? We integrate with Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard. We integrate with all the major platforms using global standards like LTI and IMS Global. And the data can be further analyzed through your platform to track, progression, for decisions about promotion, pass, fail, and so forth. There's a question about whether the platform can be used for summative assessment, Mona. The answer is yes. We have a partnership with ExamSoft. And so we share our platform integrates, and then ExamSoft is a global leader in many schools. 1,500, thousands of schools already use ExamSoft already. So why reinvent the wheel? So our assessments can go into their platform for summative testing. I see Dr. Fahad has a hand up. Dr. Fahad?
Yes, Dr. Tao, thank you so much for the informative presentation. Actually, my question was that it's just for my own understanding, so I can explain it to my colleagues clearly. So on the website of Scholar RX, I just noticed that it says that it's a digital learning platform. But some digital learning platforms are classified as LXPs, like learning experience platforms. So would you classify Scholar RX as a learning experience platform or as an LMS?
We would classify ourselves. So first of all, one comment. We believe that and this is my own personal opinion, Dr. Pod, and fantastic question. We think the definition of LXP is somewhat evolving because it's a newer term. But that's what we would consider ourselves. We would be closer to an LXP. We do not really consider ourselves an LMS. we actually work directly with LMS. As I mentioned before, we integrate with, again, Moodle, Blackboard. We do not replace the administrative function. We do not replace the gradebook. We can help with rostering. So if you're onboarding a class, we can help. Our platform can assist with that, but we don't necessarily replace the rostering that occurs in Moodle and Blackboard and so forth. You know, so we focus very much on the interactions between the students and the faculty, and eventually the students amongst each other, and then ultimately, you know, the interactions between the schools themselves. So, you know, University of Kentucky, you know, University of Kentucky in the United States sharing with you know, St. George University in London if they want to. That's where our focus is. You know, again, you know, going back to the theme of global sharing and collaboration. Does that answer your question, Dr. Fahad?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. I know we're at the top of the hour. Dr. Shabi, Dr. M, you know, are there any other questions, or should we wrap up?
There are a few questions, but we can wrap up. We can continue to communicate with you. Of course, people will go back onto the webpage of SIVU and have a look at it and come back to you and ask you for a few more questions. My final question is that we're starting a program of USMLE teaching and training because we're in collaboration with the American University of Barbados, which was a medical school that I founded some years ago. And I'm very, very close to it. How can we benefit with your technology to train these people from across the world? We have our students coming from 21 countries at the moment, mostly in the developing world. How can we benefit with this technology in terms of USMLE, for example, training these young graduates to be assimilated in the American system?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yeah. Yes, our platform has a complete USMLE program embedded. As I mentioned, that was our original business, yes, which was USMLE. As you know, we do first aid, and we are the only platform that fully integrates first aid for the USMLE in it. So, you know, so we have first aid digitally. We have a top tier USMLE question bank. We have short USMLE review videos, digital flashcards for USMLE preparation. And while our bricks are designed for curriculum education first, you know, first things first, you know, they are very student friendly. So the students can interact, you know, with them to dive deeper into high yield topics. So our question banks integrates with the bricks. So if they get a question wrong about, you know, preeclampsia, and they can in our USMLE question bank, then they can go remediate in the preeclampsia brick, you know, in our curriculum, and it's instantly connectable, and then with videos and flashcards and so forth. And our platform is proven to raise you know, board scores by, you know, 10 to 15 points, adjusting for pre-matriculation GPA and MCAT scores, you know. So it is a very robust platform, and it is very well studied.
Well, thank you so much.